I think one of the questions that I have is concerns Washington. You know, we keep hearing so much about the divisiveness
Yeah.
in Congress.
Yeah.
Uh, Does it seem to you that Congress is pretty well made up of people from both extremes?
No, I
Not
would say
really.
that's not the case. No,
Okay.
I think that, and I do think it's improving. I think, this is my third term, I think, but my first term, the 112th Congress, there was more of that you know, people had kind of entrenched in their views. But I think you're seeing more and more of that. I mean, people on both sides of the aisle want to move forward and get things done. I think that's gotten a lot better. I think the morale amongst the members of Congress is getting better, including myself. It's a pretty frustrating situation, to be honest with you. But I think it's improving. I think you got a lot of people across the political spectrum, like you always have, and you know, like things like trade, for example. You know, we had 190 Republicans vote for the trade. We had 52, I think, vote no. But then we had 35 or something Democrats vote with us to move forward on trade. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there are some issues that are still pretty divisive, but for the most part, it's getting better. And let me just say this, and many people have said this: we're really a reflection of the American people. Congress is. Mm-hmm. It's not just that Congress is divided on the issues. The American people are divided on the issues, and so they elect people that is a reflection of the American people for the most part. And so, I think the American people, even in the last 3 or 4 years, have started to, you know, get to the point where, yeah, let's give these guys, ladies, men and women a chance here, and let's, you know, try to move towards getting things done.
That's great. I think that was the big question I had.
Yeah.
Today, of course, Obamacare came up, the Affordable Health Care Act. What's going to happen with that in the future, do you think?
I think
we talked about it, parts of it being rewritten.
Yeah, I think
where
a lot.
Do you see that's going?
I think ultimately what's going to happen is a good portion of the law is going to be changed dramatically. I think in a piecemeal fashion. I think the things that don't work are going to be replaced by more patient-centered health care versus government-centered control of the healthcare system. I mean, I think you're going to see more things like Healthy Indiana Plan 2.0, which I support, which is a state-based way to ensure low-income Hoosiers. I think the federal government's going to give more flexibility to states to create programs like that versus traditional Medicaid, for example, which is, you know, controlled by Washington for the most part, and at the states. So I think you'll see that. I think you'll see changes made that will allow the more traditional insurance marketplace to get reestablished, you know, so that there'll be, rather than just exchange policies and then employer-based policies, things will change and adapt to where you'll start to see more individual and small group market policies come back, the ones that were lost after the law was passed, and create competition, honestly, for the exchange policies, and people will be able to choose, you know, and potentially even, if it stays in place, the subsidies, to use their subsidies to purchase insurance outside of the exchange in a more competitive marketplace. I think some of the things that are going to stay in place, which they should, is like pre-existing condition coverage at a reasonable cost, and the lifetime cap issue where, you know, if you spent more than $1 million on your health insurance, you didn't have insurance anymore. I mean, people, as a physician, I thought those were bad for years, right? I had patients that had that happen to them.
Right.
But I honestly don't think, from economically, that the Affordable Care Act is going to, for the long term, make sure people that are insured or get the cost down. We got to address the cost of health care. And the cost, we need more price transparency. You and I need to know more about what it costs. We need quality transparency. You and I need to know more about what quality service we're getting. And we need to be able to get that in a way that the consumers can help drive a marketplace. So at the end of the day, I think the Affordable Care Act is trying to insure people, but it's not doing anything to address the cost. And it's not being that successful insuring people. And the reason is because the people right now in hospitals will tell you some of the people that are having the most trouble are people that have insurance because their deductibles $10,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
$6,000 individual, 10 for a family in some areas. Now, in fairness, there are a lot of people, that are getting policies that are as good or better than they had before. But I think those stories are few and far between. But there are some people that are happy with, a significant number of people that are happy with their policy that didn't have insurance before.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they will be when they have to go to the hospital and they have a $6,000 deductible, I don't know. So that's my view. I think, I think we need health care reform, but we got to get the cost down.
The last question I think I have is, when you're all alone and you're thinking about the future, what do you see on the horizon for Congress and the country?
First of all, I'm very optimistic. I mean, I think I'm very optimistic. I think that, we're going, our country is struggling a little bit financially, but I think we're going to see some big agreements on how to get control of our debt and our deficit. I really do. I think there's going to be, it's going to be driven by the American people demanding that we do something about it. So I think in the future you're going to see some big agreements, hopefully in the next, 2 to 5 years on, I'd do it tomorrow, right? But on getting control of that. And one of the things I think we're going to have to do is pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. I support that. Both political parties have not been able to get control of this situation without the Constitution saying the budget has to be balanced. 49 states have some form of a balanced budget amendment. They can't spend more money than they take in. So that's one thing. Two, I think we're going to get some big agreements on how to get our infrastructure back and get it built, get our infrastructure improved upon. I think we're going to get some big agreements on that in the future. I'm pretty optimistic about that. The health care stuff we discussed, I think there'll be some dramatic changes in the Affordable Care Act. The good parts that I mentioned will be there. There'll be the bad parts won't, primarily because of private sector driven competition with better policies and better coverage under in the private sector.
It would seem from a lay point of view, a simplistic point of view, that if the commercial healthcare insurance companies really want the government to get out of the business, then they just need to step up to the plate and provide the policies at the price that people.
I'd agree. I totally agree with you on that. And that's how that's going to happen is, again, price transparency, quality transparency, and we're going to have to create more competition in the healthcare marketplace on the insurance side. The whole concept of selling insurance across state line has almost become a political talking point. But the reality is that would help because, and I know people that support the Affordable Care Act, a lot of them say, well, that's not going to do anything. The insurance, why would that make a difference? It'll make a difference because there's competition. If you could sit here in Brazil, Indiana on your computer and buy, and there's a company in California offering insurance that's competitive, all of a sudden the companies in Indiana would be going, hey, we're going to have to create a marketplace here where we can keep our customers.
It works for every other commodity.
Every other one. You can get on the internet and buy a car. You can get it on there, and I mean, you can do almost anything. So you're right on that, I think. And but I also think that from a national security standpoint, we're going to see some big. I think you're going to see more. Really a rejuvenation of nationalism, where Americans are going to step up and realize that we're in a big fight here against a group of people that don't like our way of life. And I think you're starting to see that already. That Americans are going to start really band together more nationalistic and realize that we're in a big fight and we're going to win. So there's other things, but I'm pretty optimistic.
Excellent. Thank you, Congressman.
No, thanks for your time. Yeah.